Hello children, this is Grandma Carla, and we're going to talk more about stories of the pilgrims. I'm loving this book because there's so many things in this book that I didn't know about the pilgrims, and so I'm learning with you. Okay, so this story is Away to Holland. When spring came, the pilgrims again planned to leave England. Elder Brewster knew a Hollander who had a ship of his own. So he arranged with this Dutch captain to carry the pilgrims to Holland. They now went to a lonely place on the shore, far from any town, where they thought they would be safer. All day they waited for the ship, fearing every minute to be taken by the king's men. At last, late in the afternoon, a sail appeared. When the ship had come as close to the shore as it could, it anchored and waited for the people to row out to it. The pilgrims had a large boat of their own in which they had brought their goods down the river to the sea. It was agreed that most of the men should go first and load the heavy boxes upon the ship, then two come back for those left on the shore. The boat had started toward the shore for its second load when the ship's captain saw something that filled his heart with terror. A long black line was curving down the hill. He raised his glass to his eyes. "Soldiers and horsemen! Look, men!" he cried. One glance told them that the soldiers were marching straight toward the place where the pilgrims were waiting. "Quick! Lower another boat!" cried William Bradford. "We can row to the shore and get the others before the soldiers reach them." But already the sailors were lifting the anchor. The wind filled the sails, and the ship began to move. "Let us off!" cried the men. "If you are afraid to wait for the others, at least let us go back to our families." "The soldiers will capture my ship," answered the captain. "My ship is all I have in the world. They shall not have it." "They do not want your ship, and they could not reach it if they did. They only want us. Let us go." But the frightened man would not listen to them. He had heard of many captains who had lost their ships through helping people escape from England, and he would not stop a moment. The ship sailed out into the sea, and the darkness soon hid the shore from the sight of those on the deck. That night, a great storm arose. The little ship was tossed about like a chip upon the waves. Not a star was to be seen in the black sky to guide the pilot. No friendly lighthouse sent out its rays to show them where to go. For more than a week, the ship was driven before the wind, they knew not where. When the storm was over, the sailors found that they had been going away from Holland instead of toward it. They were hundreds of miles off their course. "If we have a good wind and fair weather, we shall reach port in a few days," said the captain when the ship had been turned and headed for Holland. But they did not have good wind or fair weather. That very night, a heavy fog settled down upon the sea. They could not see 10 feet from the ship. 2 days later, another storm came, much worse than the first one. Surely the little vessel could not brave the storm. One of the masts was gone, and the water poured in through a hole in the side of the ship. Worst of all, the food and the fresh water was almost gone. None on board expected ever to see land again. The captain thought God was punishing him for his cowardly act in leaving the helpless women to the soldiers. The sailors all joined the pilgrims in their prayers for help and pardon. At last the clouds broke, and bits of blue sky peeped forth. Soon the wind went down, and the waves too slowly grew quiet. With the sun to guide them by day and the stars by night, the ship finally reached the city of Amsterdam in Holland. But what had become of the pilgrims who had been left on the shore? When the soldiers came up, they found only a group of very miserable women, frightened children, and 2 or 3 men. They saw the ship sailing out to sea and knew they were too late to take those they most wanted. What should they do? It seemed a shame to imprison women and children who had done no one any harm. But they had their orders, and there was nothing to do but obey. So the pilgrims were placed in their boat and rowed to the city. It was a long, tiring ride, and before they reached the landing, the night had grown quite dark, and most of the children were fast asleep. When the lights of the city were seen, one big soldier thought of his wife and babies there, safe at home. Then he looked at his prisoners, a few tearful women, and some tired sleeping children. He did not feel very brave. Risking his life in battle was more pleasant than this. The other soldiers seemed to feel much as he did, for when the shore was reached, they gently helped their prisoners from the boat. Then each took a sleeping child in his arms, and soon all disappeared down the dark street. The pilgrims were not kept in prison long this time. A few days later, they returned to the homes of their friends. The judges were tired of them. The king, too, was tired of the trouble. Since their husbands have gone, let the women go to them. I am tired of hearing about it, said King James. But few of them had money to go then, and it was many months before the men in Holland could earn enough money to send for their families. So this chapter, Away to Holland, took only the men to Holland. And the women, there's the boat, all tattered and torn there. Because it had, well, it's got some flags and things. So that was the boat. Then the boat got a beating because it went out into the stormy sea. And it took them a long time to get to Holland. All right, let's listen to our questions. Number 1, as the people were getting on another ship in the spring to go to Holland, what did the captain notice? Number 2, why did the captain want to hurry away and not get the women and the children who were left on the shore? He was a coward, wasn't he? Number 3, what did the captain think God was doing to him when they had terrible storms and were almost going to sink? Number 4, when the soldiers found the women and children, what orders did they obey? And number 5, what did King James finally let the women do? There's a picture of one little girl, probably as she watched the ship sail away with her daddy on it. Next time, we'll read about In Holland. This is Grandma Carla, and I love you.